Hey everybody, it's Jason Blaha here, and I'm just sitting here drinking my morning coffee. Getting ready to start my day. And today I want to talk with you guys a little bit about overtraining, but the fact of the matter is that most people don't need to worry about it as much as they actually do. It's been way overhyped, way overused. And I think what a lot of people are confusing with overtraining is overuse injuries, inflammation, things like that they're getting from excessive amounts of mindless volume. And people need to understand that there is a tremendous difference there. There's a tremendous difference there. And the fact of the matter is, yes, overtraining is real. Overtraining is real. Absolutely documented in the sports science literature. Sports physicians, everyone else have to diagnose it, treat it, things like that in athletes. It's actually real. Documented. It's a syndrome. So I don't want people to think that I'm saying it isn't real, because it absolutely is. And I actually recently have reached close to an overtrained state, and people observed it in my training, my bar speeds, things like that. But you need to step back and look at what it took for me to do that. Keep in mind, guys, I was in the 250s in body weight a few months ago, like 5 months ago, when I was doing this, and I've lost like 20 pounds, right? I've lost 20 pounds. So in other words, that's already one of the things that makes it easier to overtrain. When you are under eating or you're losing weight, it's actually much easier to reach an overtrained state. Yet you guys watched me on camera train 6 days a week, doing pretty much squat training maxes 6 days a week. And I did that while losing weight, while doing other lifts every day, right? For a long period of time, I was doing overhead pressing, maxing, bench maxing, chin-up maxes, throwing in rows, other accessory stuff that I rotated deadlifts in. I've switched around squat styles. Look what it took for me to go to do this. I haven't deloaded this year. This week is my first deload this year. And keep in mind, guys, I'm 41. I'm not blasting a bunch of gear. I have been slowly losing weight. Yet it took me 5 months of training on camera, pretty much, of training heavy 6 days a week to start to see any signs. And what am I doing that finally pushed it to that point? I've been hitting a training max there at 6 days a week on the squat with 2 back off sets of pause squats, right? So we're basically, and if you count the other ramp ups, I'm still hitting at least one heavy single that's 90% before that. So basically it's 2 heavy singles that are 90% or higher, 6 days a week, followed by 2 more back off sets for volume. So that's essentially 12 heavy singles and then 12 back off sets on squats every week. That would technically count, if we're going to look at Prelipin's chart, that's basically 24 sets. I've been deadlifting 5 or 6 days a week, moderately heavy. I've been benching 5 days a week, hitting a max and then 3 back off sets. So start doing the math here, guys. As far as work sets go, we're talking about somewhere between 5 and 10 working singles on deadlift every week, 24 sets of squats. Yes, I know they're lower reps. 15 sets, actually no, 20 sets of bench press, and then 4 to 5 working sets of the standing press, plus whatever accessory stuff I do, like pull-ups, chin-ups, rows, different things that I've done through there, cheat curls. So that's what you're seeing, plus I've been added in an hour of cardio a day. An hour of low-intensity cardio every day has been added into that a few weeks back. It took all of that before I finally started overreaching on my lower body to the point to where I need to deload, but my upper body is still getting stronger. And I'm 41, so people need to put that in perspective. Most people who think that they are overtraining, it's usually undersleeping. They're usually not getting enough food. There's other stuff going on in their lifestyle. But if you're sticking with normal human movement patterns, you are getting enough sleep, you're getting enough food, you're not malnourished in any way, you have a good balanced diet, you're getting 8 to 10 hours of sleep every night, I think most of you would not be able to overtrain if you did normal human movement patterns. Now, I'm going to get to something else. I mean normal human movement patterns that don't cause connective tissue inflammation. Because a lot of your isolation movements, a lot of machine movements, things like that cause inflammation in connective tissue. They can cause you to get hurt, get injured. They can cause you to experience pain that has nothing to do at all with overtraining. Overtraining is a systematic, or at least part of your body can go through it. What I would say to most people is that there's definitely some good strength coaches out there who say things like, maybe you should try to overtrain. Because if you actually give it a try, you actually try to overtrain on big movements, instead of overtraining, you might find that you accidentally get really, really strong. So that's something for people to factor in with all of that. It actually takes a lot to reach an overtrained condition. It takes a lot. And if you honestly think 15 sets of squats a week is how you're going to reach an overtrained condition, not so much, not so true. Plenty of novice programs have people start out with 15 sets of squats, of working set squats every week, and they never experience an overtrained condition, even people running these programs for a year. That's not uncommon. Where people start to experience what they're thinking of oftentimes is these other problems comes down with excessive amounts of fluff and pump, right? When you're coming in and you're doing 15 sets of different curls every week, particularly maybe variations that cause inflammation down in your bicep tendons, right, because of the way you're performing them, or you start getting elbow pain because you're doing way too many tricep extensions and you're doing so in a manner that's not a normal human movement pattern that causes again, friction on the tendons in your elbows down here against your bones, causes them to get calcification on there, inflammation and stuff that causes pain, makes your elbows hurt. Maybe doing too many leg extensions and you start getting tendonitis in your quads around your knees, and then you start thinking, oh man, I'm destroying my knees from squatting, when it's the leg extensions causing it or the knee wraps causing it. It's all this other stuff that people do that make them think that they're having these problems, and they're experiencing localized pain somewhere due to something they're doing wrong in their training, and then they'll attribute that to, well, I'm just training too much. No, you're training stupid. You're training stupid. You're not training too much. If you stuck with just normal human movement patterns, and I mean things like squats, bench presses, dips, standing presses, push presses, power cleans, deadlifts, rows, right? These sort of movements, if you tried to do these with very large amounts of volume with heavy weight every week, the majority of you would probably take 4, 5, 6 months to actually reach an overtrained state. Again, as long as you're not doing stupid stuff like a bunch of forced reps, a bunch of really slow eccentrics, trying to do a bunch of 20 rep sets, things like that. That's actually how you'll get there. But if you're just sticking with moderately heavy weight to really heavy weight, day in, day out, and you're hitting large amounts of volume on a bunch of these big exercises, it's actually going to take people a lot longer to overtrain than they think, if your other lifestyle factors are on point. And it's, again, you'll see, again, plenty of coaches tell people, yes, overtraining is real, but the majority of people are undertraining. The majority of people are undertraining. And that includes even people who are actually doing really well and really strong. That oftentimes what you end up seeing is that you see guys who are already advanced lifters, they've stagnated a while, and then they get put on a slightly higher volume program where they do even more of their big lifts, the lifts that matter most to them, and then what happens? Their strength starts going up, doesn't it? Their strength starts going up because they need that larger volume to elicit a response to disrupt the homeostasis and push them further. And I'm not telling people to do mindless amounts of volume, but what I am saying is that for most people, if the rest of your lifestyle is in check, if your lifestyle is in order, you live a relatively healthy lifestyle, and you don't have any underlying health issues that are contributing, it's actually a lot harder to overtrain than most people think. A lot of people out there could probably double the amount of weekly volume they're doing on their big exercises and still not reach an overtrained state for 4, 5, 6 months. Maybe never. Again, it's harder to reach that state than you think. And let's just be realistic here, guys. All the data shows out there, no matter what your training goals are, larger amounts of volume usually produces larger results. as long as you can recover from it. But what people also need to remember is that even work capacity is trainable, because just because something right now might push you beyond your maximum recoverable volume, it doesn't mean that 6 months from now that your work capacity will not have improved either. And the point we get to is that you don't know what your maximum recoverable volume is until you actually start pushing hard enough to find that limit, right? And we're not talking about novice lifters here. Novice lifters need to follow structured programming. They need to follow structured programming. I'm talking about people who have already built their base. People who've already built their base. In other words, you should be benching 2 plates aside for reps. You should be squatting 3 plates aside for reps. You need to be squatting 4 plates aside, or deadlifting 4 plates aside for reps before you ever come off of a structured program, right? You need to be following structured, balanced, written programs by other people up until that point. But after that point, again, you can start experimenting a lot more. And again, I think most people are going to find that's the case, that your maximum recoverable volume is probably higher than you think it is. Probably higher than you think it is. And I'm talking about on the real exercises, the exercises that count. I'm not talking about you coming in doing a bunch of curls and lateral raises. I'm talking about big, basic exercises, the stuff that people are actually scared of overtraining on. Again, it's a hell of a lot harder to get there than most people realize. And that's kind of the point I've been making with some of my training. You know, people talking about that, and they're worried about that with people who are squatting every day. Seriously? If you honestly think that you're going to overtrain just because you squat every day, try it. Try it for a while. It might get really hard at first. It's going to be challenging for 2 or 3 weeks, but then what you're going to find after you've been doing it more than about 3 weeks, all of a sudden stuff like that starts to become a lot easier. Your body adapts. Your body adapts. So while overtraining is definitely real, it is a real problem, it really isn't the problem that it's been made out to be for the majority of people. There's all this talk of recovery, but recovery is not, doesn't mean, oh, you need to necessarily train less. It means that you need to clean up the rest of your lifestyle. I mean, if you're worried about recovery, you don't need to be saying, oh, I just need to be doing less training. Because, you know, people come with this silly stuff, well, you only grow when you're out of the gym. Well, that's true. But, you know, if you're only in the gym an hour or 2 every day, that gives you a hell of a lot of other time to grow. Gives you a lot of other time to grow. What we really need to be talking about with recovery is rest, nutrition, and stress management, right? That's what we need to be talking about in recovery, not telling people, oh, you're spending too much time barbell squatting or bench pressing every week, because odds are you probably aren't. All right, guys, but that's really all I have to say on that today. I hope it's been informative, and I will talk to you guys next time.